Most people think Ethereum transactions are processed fairly. You press confirm, the blockchain executes your transaction, and everything just happens neutrally, right? Well, actually, before your transaction is finalized, it enters a hidden battlefield. It's this intensely competitive space where bots, validators, searchers, and algorithms are all fighting in literally milliseconds to profit from your activity. The absolute second your transaction becomes visible, invisible systems start reacting to it. Bots can front-run it, they can reorder it, and they can completely exploit it. They are making a profit from your action before it even executes. This hidden mechanism is called MEV, which stands for Maximum Extractable Value. And today, it's evolved into a massive billion-dollar infrastructure layer operating right beneath Ethereum itself. The crazy part? Most users navigating these networks have absolutely no idea it even exists. Before we go any further, please note that this explainer on the channel Blocks, Bonds, Funds is created for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial or investment advice. Okay, let's step into the dark woods. So let's actually break this down by looking at the mempool. When you submit a transaction, it doesn't just instantly go onto the blockchain. First, it drops into a decentralized waiting room for pending unconfirmed transactions. But here is the kicker. This waiting room basically has glass walls. Automated bots continuously scan the space, hunting for profitable opportunities, while gas fees spike as users frantically try to compete to get their transactions included first. This setup transforms the network into what researchers brilliantly call the dark forest. Honestly, the moment your transaction hits the mempool, it's exactly like striking a match in a pitch-black forest. You're instantly visible. Every single public transaction becomes completely vulnerable. In this forest, autonomous bots are the predators, hunting those visible transactions, competing aggressively with millisecond reaction times to exploit the data you've just broadcasted to the world. Because everything is out in the open like this, the actual order of transactions has immense monetary value, and that extraction mechanism is MEV. Think of it less like a line at a grocery store and more like a cutthroat digital auction. Validators, builders, and searchers are all aggressively competing to control the order of transactions. They can rearrange the queue, delaying, prioritizing, or totally reordering your transaction based entirely on how much profit they can squeeze out of it. To really grasp how intense this environment is, listen to this genuinely chilling quote from researcher Dan Robinson. In this environment, publicly identifying someone else's location is as good as directly destroying them. If you're out there navigating decentralized networks without protection, you are completely exposed. Your public intent to trade is the exact bait these systems use to extract money right out of your pocket. Which brings us to one of their absolute favorite, most common tactics, the sandwich attack. Let's say you're swapping tokens on a decentralized exchange. A bot detects your pending trade. In a fraction of a second, that bot buys the token first. That's the front run. Because of their buy, the price goes up. Then your trade executes at this new, worse price. Finally, the bot immediately sells the token at the inflated price that they just forced you to create. They silently extract that value straight from an ordinary user's trade. Now, if you think we are just talking about pennies here, take a look at this staggering number. $289 million. That is the estimated amount extracted from unsuspecting users in early 2025 alone, and that's just through sandwich attacks. It acts as this massive, completely invisible tax on the entire decentralized ecosystem. But the story definitely doesn't end with a few clever bots. What started out as individual programmers running simple little scripts has morphed into a macroeconomic billion-dollar industrial supply chain. MEV isn't just some fringe exploit anymore. It is a fundamental infrastructure layer that dictates exactly how the Ethereum economy functions on a day-to-day basis. Does this sound vaguely familiar? Well, it absolutely should. Blockchain essentially exposed and recreated the exact same extraction systems that are already deeply embedded in traditional finance. MEV bots are essentially the crypto equivalent of Wall Street's algorithmic high-frequency trading firms, and these private transaction channels, they're the new dark pools. The only difference is the battleground is out in the open for anyone with the right tech to participate. All of this has birthed a massive extraction economy. We're talking about highly sophisticated strategies that are now deeply integrated into DeFi. You've got arbitrage systems balancing prices, liquidation bots ruthlessly hunting under collateralized loans, intense NFT mint wars, and really complex cross-chain operations. This hidden economy isn't a bug in the code. For the people running these systems, this is the system. So what is Ethereum doing about this? Well, to prevent these powerful MEV extractors from completely centralizing the entire network, developers introduced something called proposer-builder separation, or PBS. The idea here was actually pretty simple. Let's separate the highly specialized, resource-intensive job of building the blocks from the validators who simply propose those blocks to the network. And to manage all this chaos, the network now relies on a layered MEV stack known as MEV Boost. Instead of a messy, completely unstructured free-for-all, we now have a highly structured assembly line. It completely transforms how blocks are made, with specialized actors each taking a very specific role in ordering transactions to maximize the profit of the block. Let's walk through this hierarchy so it makes sense. It starts with you, the user, sending a transaction. Then, searchers hunt for profitable ways to order your transaction, packaging them up into bundles. They pass these bundles to builders, who assemble full, complete blocks to squeeze out the absolute maximum value possible. Those builders then bid for inclusion through trusted intermediaries called relays. And finally, the validator just picks the most profitable block offered to them. Basically, validators are increasingly outsourcing block construction entirely to these specialized infrastructure providers. But as you might guess, this creates a glaring issue: the centralization paradox. Ethereum is fundamentally designed to be a decentralized network. Yet, to manage the chaos of MEV, the transaction flow is now funneling right through a highly specialized, centralized set of choke points. We are seeing massive dominance from just a handful of relay operators, like flashbots, who basically control the entire pipeline. And this isn't just some hypothetical risk down the road. Look at the data post-merge. Over 85% of all blocks on Ethereum are now constructed through this PBS pipeline rather than standard locally built blocks. Almost all transaction flow concentrates through these dominant operators for one simple reason. It is just way too profitable for validators to ignore. Which leads us to a really uncomfortable reality. When a few central relays and builders dominate the network's transaction flow, they suddenly hold an immense amount of power. If they choose to, or if they are legally forced to, they can filter, exclude, or outright censor specific transactions. Suddenly, your decentralized ledger is relying heavily on centralized gatekeepers. So, you're probably wondering right now, if MEV taxes regular users and actively centralizes the network, why can't developers just write some code and turn it off? Why is this so incredibly hard to fix? Well, the brightest minds in crypto are actively trying. They are testing some seriously cutting-edge solutions. Things like encrypted mempools, where your transaction is hidden with cryptography until the exact moment it's executed, effectively blinding those predators in the dark forest. They're also exploring fair ordering algorithms, shared sequencers for layer 2 rollups, and highly complex zero-knowledge infrastructure. But here is the fundamental truth they are wrestling with. MEV naturally emerges anytime transactions are visible before execution. It isn't a piece of malicious code. It's just an economic reality that emerges whenever you have to order transactions sequentially. And every proposed solution introduces massive technical trade-offs, often forcing developers to sacrifice speed or simplicity just to hide that information. The roadmap for the future looks toward integrating solutions directly into the base layer of the blockchain. Moving beyond external relays, developers are looking at enshrined proposer-builder separation, or ePBS. They're exploring AI-driven transaction routing, modular infrastructure, and autonomous networks. The ultimate goal is to strip the power away from those centralized choke points and restore trustless transparency. So let's bring this all the way back to that initial Ethereum transaction. The next time you hit confirm on a decentralized app, realize you aren't just sending a simple digital ping. You are immediately surrounded by hidden layers: bots, relays, validators, builders, auctions, and massive extraction systems. You're stepping right into an invisible, hyper-competitive auction happening in the milliseconds before finality. You are navigating the dark forest. I'll leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. As these blockchain networks continue to scale into global financial infrastructure, the future of digital economies may not depend on who owns the assets, but on who controls the order of information itself. Because when millions of dollars are extracted in milliseconds, the one who controls the queue controls the market. Thanks for exploring this topic with me, and stay curious.